We all feel like we know the story of solar energy, right? It's the clean green hero that's going to save our climate future. But what if that story has a hidden chapter, a much more complicated one? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the dark side of solar. And it all starts with a question that honestly seems a little random. In a world totally obsessed with oil and gas, why is everyone in the energy sector suddenly talking about the price of silver? I mean, you can't burn it for fuel, so what's the deal? Well, the answer to that one question, it peels back the layers on this entire clean energy transition. It reveals that the road to a solar-powered world is, well, it's a lot messier and a lot more physical than most of us have been led to believe. To really get what's going on, we have to look at a pattern that has repeated itself over and over again throughout history. See, every single time we've made a huge leap in how we power our world, we've solved one massive problem only to create a totally new, unexpected one. Just look at this timeline. It's so clear. When we switched from wood to coal, great, we saved the forests, but our cities were choked with smog. Then we went from coal to oil, which made transportation cheap for everyone, but it got us even more hooked on fossil fuels. Natural gas came along and helped clean up the air in cities, but it didn't do much for the bigger climate picture. And that brings us right to today, the huge shift from oil to solar. It promises clean air, for sure, but it comes with its own big but. So first, let's talk about that promise. You know, the powerful, really appealing story of solar that we all know and love. The narrative is just so simple and clean. We've got a climate problem, and hey, look, here's solar power, the perfect solution. It's often talked about like it's a silver bullet. You just swap out the dirty stuff for the clean stuff, and boom, problem solved. It's a really comforting thought, isn't it? And look, let's be totally fair, that story isn't a lie. Once a solar panel is installed and running, it's making electricity with basically zero emissions. And the cost? It's fallen through the floor, making it super competitive. For a lot of countries, it's a ticket to energy independence and a way to hit their climate targets. So yeah, the promise is very, very real. But this is where that simple, comforting story starts to fall apart. Because you can have the best story in the world, but energy grids don't run on stories. They run on the cold, hard laws of physics. And physics presents a huge challenge. Here's the core of the problem, a massive mismatch. Solar panels obviously make the most electricity around noon when the sun is directly overhead. But when do we use the most electricity? In the evening, right? When the sun is gone and everyone comes home and turns on their lights, their TVs, their everything. So we have tons of power when we need it least and almost none when we need it most. That timing mismatch is just the first hurdle. The second one gets way less attention, and it's all about what it takes to actually make a solar panel. We have to look inside the panel's hidden factory, so to speak. And this is such a critical distinction to understand. Solar power is clean right where it's generated. It doesn't burn a thing. But to build that panel in the first place, you have to dig up, process, and ship an enormous amount of raw physical materials from all over the planet. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. To build just 1 megawatt of generating capacity, a solar farm needs way more physical stuff. We're talking concrete, steel, glass, minerals than a natural gas plant or even a coal plant. It's a trade-off we almost never talk about. We're swapping our dependence on fuel for dependence on materials. So what are we talking about here? Well, you need super pure silicon for the cells. You need aluminum for the frames, tons of copper for the wiring, and glass to protect it all. And then, yep, bringing us right back to our original mystery, you need silver for the tiny electrical contacts. Every single one of those things has to be mined and refined, which, by the way, is a super energy-intensive process that right now is powered mostly by, you guessed it, fossil fuel. So this huge growing demand for raw materials doesn't just happen in a bubble. It sends these massive ripple effects across the entire global economy. And it brings up some really tough questions about geography and who pays the price. And here it is. This is the answer to that question we started with. Just last year, building solar panels alone ate up 14% of all the silver consumed on the entire planet. Think about that. A whole new, fast-growing industry is now a huge player in the silver market. That's why silver prices are suddenly an energy story. Our clean energy dream is directly tied to this precious metal. And this creates what you could call a geographic imbalance. All the environmental damage from mining, the scarred landscapes, the water pollution, it happens right there, in the local communities next to the mines. But the benefits, that clean electricity,
are often enjoyed by people living in cities hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. It's a classic case of the costs being paid here while the benefits are enjoyed way over there.
Okay, so we've looked at the physics, the materials, the global ripple effects. What does this all mean? What is the real energy challenge that we're actually facing? Now, let me be absolutely clear about something. None of this means solar power is a bad idea. Not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. Investing in solar is one of the most critical things we can do. It's cheap, it can be built at a massive scale, and it is so much cleaner than the fossil fuels we're trying to replace. The whole point here isn't to knock solar, but to see it for what it truly is. Just one piece of a much bigger and more complicated puzzle. See, building the solar panel is really just step one. To make it all work, you have to build the whole system around it. That means huge upgrades to our electrical grids, massive investment in batteries to solve that day/night timing problem, and keeping reliable backup power ready to go. A solar panel by itself can't do the job alone. It needs a support system. And that, right there, is the main takeaway. The biggest risk we face isn't that we're putting too much money into solar panels. The real risk is that we are massively underestimating the mind-boggling cost and complexity of everything else. The grids, the storage, the backup that we need to make those panels actually work 24/7. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. As we race toward this clean energy future, is our biggest danger really investing in solar? Or is it failing to see the whole picture and underestimating the vast, complex, and expensive system that solar needs to truly finally succeed?